Hi, I'm Craig Cornell with Insurance Dragon. Right now I'm going to talk about workers' compensation premium for roofers, and in particular, how to lower that premium. First, we want to make clear that in our research, we are consultants and we are not brokers. And what we found in our research that there are at least 8 active insurance companies in California writing workers' compensation for roofing companies, and most roofing companies are surprised to find out that there are that many. That's one of the anomalies in the brokerage world, and that's one of the reasons we became consultants, is that we felt that clients were often led to believe things that weren't true and that worked against their best interests. So there are more insurance company options than you are typically led to believe. And so one way you lower your premium is by making sure that you see quotes from all of those insurance companies, and we can help you do that if you contact us. The real issue we wanted to talk about today was how to lower your premium once you get an application in front of an underwriter. And we've said in many of our other videos on the Insurance Dragon website that there are many reasons to actually make as many arguments as possible and to make those arguments in writing. The reasons primarily have to do with the fact that insurance pricing is very subjective, very negotiable, very fluid. Most clients in every industry have seen this at times, that when they get quotes for insurance, workers' compensation insurance in this case, the quotes vary widely. And the reason is that underwriters have a great deal of judgment to be applied to any particular quote, because your business is significantly different from any other business that they're going to look at, even within the roofing industry itself. The question is, are you going to take the steps to make sure that the underwriter is aware of how you're different, and in particular how you're better than other roofing companies? So if you make those arguments, if you make them in writing, if you make all of the underwriters aware about why you are a superior roofing operator compared to your competitors, and they don't make those arguments, you're going to get better rates. The underwriters are going to understand why you're a superior risk. They're going to feel more comfortable with your risk and give you lower rates than they're going to give to another roofing contractor who doesn't make those arguments, who doesn't make clear to the underwriter all of the things that that other roofing contractor may be doing to help lower risk. But if the underwriter doesn't know about it, they can't apply more credits to lower the pricing. So that's what we're going to talk about briefly here today. We're really just going to topside it. We're not going to go into great detail. If you want more information, contact us, call us, or email us, and we'll send you a very long checklist on all of the issues that you should try to flesh out in writing, and it can result in a 10 or 20 page narrative. But once you do it, you can provide it to every broker, every underwriter, every year. Very easy to update. It's really worthwhile. It'll save you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on your insurance. So we're going to topside it just to give you a flavor of the arguments that you should be making. And what we're going to talk about right now is the key issue for underwriters, which is the exposure to falls. And in particular, what is the exposure to having your employees fall specific to your operation? So arguments that you need to make in writing have to do with several issues with regard to fall protection in this case. And obviously there are other issues to address as well, but we're just going to focus on fall protection so you get the flavor of what we're talking about in terms of building arguments. First, the type of work. You can make many arguments around the type of work you do to convince an underwriter that your risk of having employees fall and be injured as a result of that fall, that your risk is less than the underwriter might think it would be. So for example, the type of work you do, obviously if you're working on a lot of flat roofs, perhaps you do a significantly higher percentage of commercial work than residential, and a lot of that work is on flat roofs. The fall exposure is much less than on a pitched roof. So if you make the argument in detail and say 75% of our work is commercial work on flat roofs, then right there alone, the underwriter is going to say, okay, the fall risk for this business is less than it would be for most of the other roofing contractors that I might consider. You might go even further to say not only are we doing 70% of our work on commercial roofs, but on top of that, on the residential work that we do a lot of flat roofs. We work in an arid environment where there's a lot of adobe type construction, and so even the residential work we do is a lot safer than typical residential work where there are pitched roofs. So the type of work you do, go into great detail on that, making arguments to the underwriter, again in writing, as to why the type of work you do limits the exposure to falls. Secondly, obviously safety equipment is very important in this regard. So go into great detail, checklists just don't flesh out the extent to which safety equipment can help protect your employees. So for example, you might fill out a checklist that says, yes, we occasionally use ladders. But if you don't get into greater detail on that, the underwriter has to typically assume the worst. So they might assume if you check the box that you use ladders on the site, that you're using ladders on 50 or 60 or 70% of your jobs, when in fact, and the reality might be that you're only using ladders infrequently. So if you go into great detail, again, in writing, long written narrative arguments as to why your risk is lower than the underwriter might think it is, it can really help you lower your premium. There's a lot of other safety equipment issues you can talk about with regard to fall protection. If you use at times lanyards, when do you use them? How do you use them? How often? What are your enforcement mechanisms to make sure the employees actually do use the lanyards? If you use scaffolding, when? To what extent do you use scaffolding? How is it erected? Is it around the entire perimeter of a job site or just a particular side that you're working on at the time? Help the underwriter see the picture in their mind of how you really work on the job site. So go into great detail on this. You can also talk about other issues. If you use nets, talk about how, when, how often, how they're erected, etc. So any safety equipment connected to fall protection, you should go into great detail to help the underwriter feel better about your risk and give that underwriter a chance to give you the lowest premium possible. You can also make many arguments simply with regard to the employees that you hire and that you have working for you. One of the biggest arguments you can make is that your employees have more experience than employees for the typical roofing contractor. So you can make arguments about tenure. You might make an argument that my employees have been with me longer than most employees that work for other roofing contractors. And you can make this argument in a number of ways. Again, it's a subjective argument what we're making here. So you might say that I have 5 employees that have been with me for over 5 years. I've got another 10 that have been with me for 3 years. And I've only got a small handful that are relatively new. Because in the insurance world, it's well known in all industries that employees who are new on the job are much, much more likely to have an accident than employees who've been on the job for some length of time. So tenure is important. You can also make arguments with regard to experience. So maybe the employees that haven't been with you that long actually have been in the industry a long time, and maybe you have a requirement that employees can't join you unless they've got at least 5 years in the industry. Whether or not it's with you or another roofing contractor, that's a good argument to say that my employees are going to be safer because they've been doing this for a long time and they know how to operate safely. Other arguments you can make have to do with supervisors. The more supervisors per employee, the better. It's generally perceived by underwriters that if you have experienced people on the job site watching the employees, it's going to be a safer work environment than if you have fewer supervisors. So go into great detail about the biography of your supervisors, about their experience, their training, their duration in the industry, etc. And if you compensate them for safety on the job site, you can go into that issue as well. The point is, any argument you can think of about why you're safer than an underwriter might think you are, you should make that argument and make it in writing. And obviously training. And training, you can go into many, many issues with regard to training. And with regard to fall protection, you could talk about how often you talk about fall protection. What's the duration of your safety meetings? How do you make sure that all the employees attend these meetings? Do you have annual refreshers for all employees on fall protection? Go into great detail. It's one thing to provide an underwriter with your safety manual, and that's important to do, but there are many issues that aren't addressed in the safety manual about how you update your employees on certain issues, and how you, if you have a safety incentive plan in terms of compensation for either the supervisors or the employees based on length of time that they go without an accident. You should go into great detail on that. The more the underwriter can see your risk, the more arguments you make, the lower your premium is going to be. And again, once you put this document together, it's going to save you money with every broker, every underwriter, every year. Very easy to update.